Hello, everyone. It's me, lcadilac. Thank you for joining me. I am an attorney in Dallas, Texas, and I practice typically real estate related law. So that is quite a litigious practice, which means I am in the courtroom very often and have a long practice history in the courtroom. So if you need an attorney, please do feel free to call us and schedule a consultation. I love watching other attorneys work. I love watching trials, and we have been following Suitcase Sarah Boone, and that is who we're going to talk about today. Now, if you have been following, I have done a series that is going to lead up to her trial. Her trial will start on October 7th, which is a Monday. I'm doing my series on Wednesday. So on October 9th, we'll discuss the opening statements. So as we lead up to that, and where we left off from last week is the saga of Sarah Boone's counsel and all of her lawyers. Okay. So Sarah Boone, in case you're new to this case, in case you're new to the channel, is a woman who lives in Florida. She's in the Orlando area. Her and her boyfriend allegedly get drunk and decide to play hide and seek. He ends up zipped up in a suitcase, and then eventually he dies in that suitcase. Now, evidence has come to light that Sarah's neighbor heard a very loud noise. She heard thumping down the stairs, noises that they had never heard from next door neighbor from Sarah. So that actually would explain why Jorge had lacerations. He has lacerations and bruises on his face, because it doesn't make sense that she zips him in the living room and somehow he has bruises, right? So I believe, and many of my viewers believe, Sarah zipped him in upstairs, then rolled him down the stairs, and then kind of proceeded to toss him around the living room for a while. And as we all now know, Sarah videotaped the suitcase. She videoed that in her phone. She videoed herself laughing at Jorge as he's begging her for help and saying that he can't breathe. Okay, so it's already a strange case. It happened way back in 2020, and now we're almost at the end of 2024, and we are just now getting to her trial. Why? Well, Sarah went through, she's now on her 9th and 10th attorney. So she has 2 attorneys who have signed up to defend her now. Prior to that, the judge had ruled that she would have to represent herself, and that is because she had gone through so many attorneys prior to that. Now, last week we went over starting with her attorneys that we're going to see in court in October and moving backwards, and I do not know where we left off. So I'm going to start with I think it's Weasley or Wesley. This attorney was her lawyer number 3. So I think we left off with 4 on our last video. This lawyer represented her for less than a month and was conflicted out. So what does it mean to be conflicted out? Well, in a criminal defense setting, if your firm or your member of your firm has represented a criminal defendant at a later date, if that same defendant is now, let's say, the victim, it would be a conflict for your firm to represent the new the new defendant, where your client had been the victim and you had represented one of those parties before. Now, if they had represented Sarah and defended Sarah before in other incidents, there would be no issue. But the issue arises in that they have represented Jorge before, and he's the victim, and now she's the defendant. So, like in the Young Thug case, Brian Steele has represented Young Thug for a very long time, 15 years or so. And that is very common to have the same defense attorney as a defendant, right? The issue here in the Sarah Boone case is that Jorge was defended by the public defender office when he was accused of domestic violence by Sarah. So that lawyer, 1 month, That is it. Conflict, once the conflict was, they were appointed by the court, and then they do the conflict check and they say, hey, court, the conflict exists. I can't do it. In private practice, before we even come on, we make sure there's no conflict check. So, all right. Prior to that was Sarah's most prolific lawyer, and his name was Padilla. He represented her from March of 2020, after Sarah's first appointed lawyer was excluded out because of the conflicts. Then Padilla comes on in March of 2020. Okay. Now, he works for almost 2 years, and he did a ton of work. I have notes that I took. He did bunches of motions to hire experts, to appoint experts, to have costs paid. He did all kinds of motions. He said that he was going to use the battered wife defense. He did the notices required for that, so on and so forth. He even did publicity. Here's WFTV9, which I'm assuming is out of Florida. He talks about the case and says the same circumstances that make it a unique case and media-worthy case are the same circumstances that are going to eventually exonerate him. So he said here that he had not yet seen the video, and he planned to secure a bond for her. So we know he did not get the bond. He eventually saw the video, and court records show both had been previously arrested for domestic violence. So Padilla did a ton of work, and he did a ton of research. He found experts. He asked for the court to pay for the experts. He had so much work, so much invested into this case. And in April of 22, he asked to withdraw and called it, and I quote, irreconcilable differences. So that's a really nice way of saying we are not getting along. Okay. So he was actually our first real glimpse into Sarah's treatment of her counsel and how she's going to treat counsel in the future. So like I said, in February, there was an attorney called LaBar that was appointed and then conflicted out. Then we have Padilla. He's March 20th to April 22. Okay, March of 2020, April 22. This is over 2 years, and he worked the hell out of the case. If you go through the case record online, he is the majority of the filings. He obviously had some issues with Sarah, and he did a motion to withdraw. Sarah then, on April 26th of 2022, writes a letter to the court in response to the motion to withdraw. So, court withdraws, court appoints someone else. That person is then conflicted out. That's Wesley or Weasley, I can't remember his name. Then Verrett is number 4. Verrett is conflicted out right away. Then you have Consolo, who is their lawyer number 5, also conflicted out. And then you get to Bankowitz. Okay, so we had spoken about Bankowitz, I believe, in the last video. Bankowitz represented her from July of 22 to August of 23, so an entire year. All right? But here's what Bankowitz said about Boone. No attorney can satisfy her. He said he had problems with Boone. Okay, so originally Lydia LaBar backed off because I guess Sarah wanted private counsel. Then you had Padilla, and he left the case in 22 because it got adversarial. Okay. Then, since the public defender had represented Jorge Torres Jr. and Boone was the victim, remember the switch we were just talking about, they had to switch it over to the regional conflict counsel, and he had to end that too because a witness had been represented by them previously, so we have another conflict. Then the court appoints Mark Consolo, who takes over for a couple weeks. He says this is a conflict with the defendant. Then Bankowitz takes over, and he asks to leave because of irreconcilable differences. He says she will not be satisfied with any attorney unless said attorney does not have a caseload and can dedicate her time solely to Ms. Boone's case, which in reality is the result she got. because of all these attorneys having to withdraw. Now, 4 of them withdrew because of her personality, and 4 of them withdrew because of the conflicts, right? All right. The judge says, no, that you're not getting anyone else unless some nut comes and volunteers. That nut did come and volunteer. And because that nut volunteered 30 days before the trial, he literally is going to have to this is going to be his only caseload. And so that is what Sarah wanted. Sarah got what Sarah wanted. Bankowitz said that he has another murder trial that takes his time, including weekends. And he says the best possible avenue is to have defendant represent herself, as no attorney can satisfy her. Okay, so that's pretty powerful. But even though Bankowitz said all of that, the judge, you still have a constitutional right to counsel. Just because everyone thinks you're an asshole and doesn't want to work with you doesn't mean you don't have a constitutional right to counsel. So the judge did have to appoint someone else and then someone else, and we've discussed those people and they're withdrawing. So Sarah was going to be representing herself. However, she lucked out and a criminal defense attorney volunteered, and he, I am sure, is dedicating every moment of his life to this trial. There is no way that you can defend a murder trial without using every second of 30 days to prepare. I would need every second of 30 days to prepare for a 3-day trial, let alone a 3-week murder trial, right? So Sarah really lucked out. She really lucked out. She had a very big uphill battle to climb, and she finally got the kind of lawyer she wants, the one that will be there for her beck and call, because she's only got 30 days. So the window got so close, but luckily she got that volunteer lawyer. She's able to have counsel. So, man, her case has been really exciting. She is really something else. She is a very interesting character with a lot of issues. A lot of issues. September is my birthday month, and for my birthday month, we are contributing 43% of our earnings to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. This center does amazing work finding children who are often, forgotten about and left behind. They're finding them and saving them from child trafficking. It is my goal for my channel to earn enough to help support one of their missions. So if you join the membership, super chat, Cashapp donations, any of those things, we will be donating 43% to that wonderful organization. And I thank you in advance. I'm very much looking forward to my birthday, the 21st day of September, and I will in fact be 43. I know you're shocked. I know, it's crazy. Okay, next Wednesday we will get together and we will discuss all of the pretrial hearings that have happened. And then on October 2nd, we will go over the 58-page letter. I would call it the infamous 58-page letter at this point. And then October 9th is going to be 2 days into the trial. We will talk about the opening statements. I will discuss with you how I liked them. That is going to be a 3-week trial, and that will go during the YSL trial. So I'll be balancing both, but I promise on Fridays I'll get to you YSL content, and on Wednesdays we'll do Sarah Boone until the jury has determined her guilt or innocence. Oh, by the way, her new lawyer also put in the abused spouse defense. I don't know if I mentioned that last week. And of course, we'll go over that next week as well. So thank you everyone so much for joining me today. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. And thank you in advance for contributing for my birthday. And we will see you again next time.